Back in 2005, I met up with film director Martin Scorsese to discuss how Caravaggio's paintings had influenced some of his finest work. This time, I was curious to know what cinematic influences had shaped his latest film, Shutter Island. Well, thank you so much for coming on the show again. The last time you came on, we were talking about Caravaggio, and we were talking about staging the human body in space and drama. And all these things. But this time, it seems to me that we have to start the conversation in a very different place, because you've made a film here that's very much about what's inside somebody's mind.
But there's space in the mind. I mean, one lives within a space. So Shutter Island, in a sense, is here in this room. It's inside us, depending on, we all have our own, as they say, Shutter Island.
Never seen a marshal's badge before. I'm Deputy Warden McPherson, gentlemen. Welcome to Shutter Island. I'll be the one taking you up to Ashcliff.
Detective Teddy Daniels, played by Leonardo DiCaprio, comes to isolated Shutter Island to lead the search for a murderess who's mysteriously disappeared from the high-security mental institution there. But as a man ravaged by grief and the violence he witnessed as a serviceman in the Second World War, Shutter Island becomes a place where his own sanity is shaken to the core.
Going somewhere?
I mean, I gather that when you set about creating, as it were, the mindscape or the space inside the mind of this character, you began by sitting down the cast with certain films, that you began with a set of cinematic references.
Yes, there had to be some references to my actors, because aside from Sir Ben Kingsley, they're younger actors. They have to know. I grew up in the late 40s, early 50s in America, New York, the atmosphere of the Cold War. I lived with the development, we didn't know it was film noir, but it was the film at the local theater. That's what was playing. Whether it was The Good Die Young, Lewis Gilbert with the Lawrence Harvey, or The Big Heat, Fritz Lang.
I found myself thinking The Trial.
The Trial, certainly The Trial, that's such a I think it's a masterpiece. I screened that for the crew.
Quite honestly, I can't remember a single offense that could be charged against me.
But the real question is, who accuses me?
I screened the Jacques Tourneur films because of mood and atmosphere, the Tourneur films, The Cat People and I Walk with the Zombie. Bad titles, beautiful works of poetry, and of course, Out of the Past. I also screened Laura for Leo and Mark because of the nature of the war-torn, world-weary vet who is now a detective. His body language, his demeanor, how he doesn't look at anybody. He doesn't look anyone in the eye. And then he falls in love with a ghost. He's half dead. And he takes over her room in that wonderful scene, loosens his tie, takes a drink, looks at her portrait, puts on the song Laura, just happens to be, on the 78 RPM record, and then the doorbell rings and everything changes.
You're alive.
It's quite beautiful.
In Shutter Island, the director draws on his vast knowledge of cinema and uses the conventions of genre, framing and film archetype, like colours on an artist's palette, to express his vision and paint a complex hero.
Primarily, I felt it was really exciting to try to use this vocabulary of the past, cinema's past, in the film, to tell the story visually, and to change the vocabulary whenever I wanted.
And what for you would be a good example of a particular scene where that transformation of the vocabulary occurs?
The scenes in Ward C, where you have the traditional dark corridor, the lights are out, the gates have been opened of some of the cells, they're the most violent prisoners, and some of them are escaped. He's walking along that dark hall, and he has to strike matches in order to see. The matches become like a defense. They become like knife strokes, in a way. And if you watch the way they're shot and edited, and the sound effects for them. But he's lighting up that darkness in his own mind. Literally, the next sequence when he leaves with Mark Ruffalo, and they're on the cliffs. For me, the cliffs themselves change, but the landscape changes as the story changes, in a way, and it becomes more heightened. And so that then switches from film noir to a psychological thriller, in a way,
Made
an
me
action
think,
thriller.
Made me think of Vertigo.
Vertigo.
Just really made me think of Vertigo.
Yeah. Well, Vertigo is partially, it's in my DNA at this point. I just simply, it's a film that is part of my consciousness.
I think Scorsese's always been fascinated by moral ambiguity. So many of his films are about men teetering on the brink of breakdown, grappling with violence and alienation in a broken world.
You talking to me?
In Shutter Island, protagonist Teddy's search for the truth pushes him closer to the edge as he's haunted by the vision of his dead wife. I mean, I felt like I was in a kind of cinematic hall of mirrors, but at the end of that, what emerges is someone who's a person.
Yes, finally.
Finally.
Finally, it's basically, it's a wonderful example of the classic search and know thyself.
Pull yourself together, Teddy.
I was very moved by his discovery of himself. It's as simple as that, and I think that's what, I think that's what we all are doing in this life. We all are here in that process of discovery, and wherever it takes us, if we can make it, maybe that's what it's all about.
And I feel that, and I feel that the language of cinema is a really interesting way to try and get at that through, because one of the ways that we defeat ourselves from finding the truth about ourselves is to create images.
Create images,
fictions.
constantly, yeah.
And so you can use the cinema to do that probably better than any other medium.
But that was the enjoyment of it, you see. But because we were allowed, it gave us license to do that in this picture. The danger was not to make it seem like simply a noir, simply a thriller. So I had to be careful all the time, skirting the edge of that cliff. But as I say, if there's a mansion, and it's on an island, and it's raining, and it's nighttime, and it's thunder and lightning, and there's an exterior shot, what does it represent? But it's also a mansion in a storm. What can I say?
It reminds me in a sense of, Picasso loved painting. And he wanted to inhabit every genre of painting, and he wanted to kind of do his own version of everybody. He did a Rembrandt, he did Manet, he did... But when Picasso painted Manet's Déjeuner sur l'herbe, it's like he wanted to kill Manet. He wanted to say, it's me, I'm Picasso. Well, I don't have the feeling that that's the same with you.
I look at the filmmakers of the past and many filmmakers of the present, and really nothing but admiration. More than admiration, I survived from them. I live off that. I live off the inspiration I get from them. But you have, I believe, particularly artists, have to know the past and know what's been done in the past in order to accept, reject, complain about, hate, love, whatever. I mean, how could you not?
A friend of mine who's a great painter said to me, people ask me why I'm obsessed with the past. And he said, well, what other home have I got?
Yeah.
It's where I belong. And it's the only way that I can understand whether what I do is any good.
Any good, or has any meaning to me anyway. Yes, there is no more home in that sense for me too, because I'm in my late 60s. I mean, the Italian-American neighborhood that I grew up in is completely gone now. That world is gone. My parents are gone. I have a family, which I've gotten very, very close with, and that's it. That's the immediate world.
You once said to me, when we talked about Caravaggio, that you were fascinated by the way in which cinema can be used to almost archaeologically recreate a lost world.
That's why Departed was so odd for me, because it was the quote, modern world, quote, present. I don't even know what people wear today. Apparently they all wear black.
Yeah. Oh, well, I haven't noticed.
At least you're wearing a chalk stripe, which is good.
I tried. I thought I have to say.
But the idea is recreating the lost worlds, because we can learn from the lost world what we know, what we can learn about the present and how to live in the future. That's really, it interests me. I'm sorry, it just does.
Don't apologise, Martin Scorsese. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Good to see you.